Hello YouTube, this is not the David Frankal Show. Why? Well, because to be entirely honest, this is going to be a very half-assed, bit of a last-minute thrown together thing just to celebrate the end of the year, which was already 2 weeks ago. And since the last episode was episode 99, that would make this episode 100, which I did previously say I wanted to do something special for, and this is not going to be that. Rather, this will just be a quick look back at 2024 with the usual end-of-year game to come. 2024 for me was probably the best and busiest year I've had in quite a long time, so that's partly the reason why there's not really been a relaunch on here, because I've just had so many other things on. Starting of course with the last mile stretch of my degree in Durham. In April I spent pretty much just holed up writing up my dissertation. That was the culmination of a year-long project collecting a shed load of material which I only ended up using a small amount of because I all had to get it down into the 10,000 word limit, which sounds like a lot when you're first starting out, and then by the end of it really is not a lot. I realised I've never actually sort of talked about my dissertation on here or, publicly revealed to the internet what it was all about. Well, I'll tell you now. It was called Unparalleled Lines, Perceptions and Realities of Rail in the North of England. And it was all about political perceptions of rail, contentions around Northern Powerhouse Rail, public perceptions, and sort of daily lived experience of rail in the north of England, specifically focusing on the Manchester to Leeds line, giving me the opportunity to talk about TRU, Northern Powerhouse Rail, etc. It was all centred around a quote from Andy Burnham a couple of years ago. We were talking about the integrated rail plan, where he says something quite interesting. He said, "We are second-class citizens when it comes to transport." And so it was unpacking that idea without necessarily arguing whether it was right or wrong, but unpacking what's bundled up in that idea and comparing it to, as I said, like the daily lived experience reality of using the train. So that involved a lot of riding on the train, riding up and down the line from Manchester to Leeds with my little dictaphone, talking to passengers on the trains and at stations. That was paired up with a series of longer form interviews with particular individuals, some people working for the rail industry, policymakers, up to and including Rail Minister Hugh Merriman, which was a bit of a coup that I managed to get him included in that. I'll tell you the story of how that came about now. I think I can probably get away with saying it. The time was October 2023. I was at Durham. This was just days after Rishi Sunak had stood up on the stage at the Conservative Party conference and announced to everyone that he was individually deciding to cancel HS2 to Manchester. And I was at a social. This was a uni social put together by the Geography Society in collaboration with various sort of pro-environmental student societies. And I was having a chat with an environmental activist who had very different views to HS2 to mine. Let's call him Bradley. Bradley had themselves participated at a big protest encampment at Denham Ford in the summer of 2020. And we were just, the topic of HS2 came up and someone else chirped in to say, "Oh, did you know the rail minister, or the HS2 minister, is in Durham this evening?" And we were both like, "What? How come?" Turns out he was at the Durham Union, the big debating society, and the motion being discussed was something along the lines of, "This house has no faith, no confidence in the government." And he was actually come along, he's a Durham alumnus himself, and he'd come along to defend the government at this debating society. It is well known in Durham that after the Durham Union sessions, there's a particular student bar where the participants tend to go. So I had a bright idea. I slipped away and went to go and meet Hugh, and I was indeed successful in having a chat with him. And I sort of opened with, "Hey, I come from Manchester, and I'm a bit disappointed to see that we're not getting the big high-speed rail project we were promised." But we actually had a very good conversation, and he was very, very gracious to me, and he actually agreed, "Yes, I'll come and do a half-hour interview with you for your dissertation." So in January, this time last year, I actually went down to the Department for Transport office in Westminster and went and interviewed him and included him in my dissertation. That being said, I frustratingly forgot to take a photo with him, so I guess it never happened. Anyway, at the end of April, I handed in that dissertation along with a couple of other essays. The very last exam I sat was in May. By the way, I've put up 2 of my best rail-related essays onto Enroute blogs, so you can go and read them if you're interested. One is from my first year. It's all about railway stations. The brief was to talk about Nigel Thrift and his contention about space and society being co-produced, using an example which I wrote about railway stations. So I talked about how stations shape society and how society is shaped by stations. I talked about the development of cities. I talked about time and our sense of rhythm. Obviously, railways gave us standardized time. And I talked about place and community as well. And the second one was for a third year module all about neoliberalism, where I talked about railway privatization and the idea of competition and liberalisation of the railway and how it's never really been successfully implemented. So yeah, those both scored really well. You can go and read them on the Enroute website if you're curious. And yeah, I'm very pleased to say I got good marks pretty much across the board on my degree, including an 80 for my dissertation, and actually ended up coming second in the year, which was a nice surprise to find out at the Geography Drinks reception. And so then off I went. Goodbye to 4 years at Durham, at Van Mildert College. Spent the summer at my parents in Thirsk, and now I've moved back to my home city of Manchester in this new flat. But more about that later. 2024 was actually my first flight-free year, although I have to admit that was a bit of an accident because we were actually planning to go to New York in December, a trip we had to move and postpone for reasons at the last minute, unfortunately. But yeah, as a result of that, I did not fly anywhere in 2024. As is practice, I've been doing all of my short-haul European trips by train, twice to Budapest and back, once to Sicily and back, including Europe's last remaining passenger train ferry, and a lovely week with my family in Sicily. And a longer trip over the summer with my girlfriend, including Budapest, the Balaton, and the Croatian coast. We visited the fabulous city of Pula and the picture postcard gorgeous town of Rovni. Other domestic highlights of the year include various trips to London, Windsor, Oxford, Warwick, the Northumberland coast. In November, I was part of a big group of nerds called The Insanity, who did a challenge to cross the Tyne in a set number of ways in the shortest time possible, including, of course, on the metro and various buses. And the Tyne foot tunnel was closed, so we actually had to get a little replacement bus. My pair partner and I came joint third in the challenge, for which we won this fabulous beauty prize. Look at that. 2 particular standouts of the year. In the summer, I went out with young rail professionals for a volunteer trip on the Festiniog Railway in North Wales. That involved a bit of manual labour, laying a new siding for the railway, and also plenty of pissing about, riding a disco train, also visiting the nearby Corris Railway and driving a few locomotives around there. I've decided that when I retire, I would like to retire in the Welsh coastal town of Porthmadog because it's just beautiful. And the other one being visiting Dawlish with my girlfriend's family for a week over the summer. That's basically their annual place. There's a funny parallel, I thought, to sort of my family's yearly North Balaton holiday. In a way, it's very similar. And yeah, it was just a lovely time in a gorgeous place. But the biggest highlight of the year is, of course, the wonderful year I've had with my girlfriend, who I love very much, and I'm now living with here in our new flat in Manchester, where I've started a new job, more on that later, and she's training to be a teacher. And here she is now! Only joking. She's made it very clear that she has no intention of ever appearing on this channel, which is fair enough, but it does give you viewers some fuel to suspect that I might just be making her all up. But you'll just have to take my word for it. She's gorgeous and clever and funny and very much real. At the end of last year, Harry Burr and I launched Enroute, a volunteer-run sustainable transport research and advocacy group. We've built upon our previous work as Sustainable Transport Midlands, but pivoted ourselves to a slightly more flexible operating model, I guess, where we're producing research, running campaigns, responding to consultations, and running other services such as Here to Help, which is a bit of a consultancy service for small-scale transport issues where we can give people advice or signpost them. More broadly, the model we are trying to build is one where we are led by volunteer interest. So we want people to come to us with their particular interests and run a project, do some research or run a campaign within that broader overall remit of sustainable transport that we've set. We want to help equip them and shape and guide them and sort of use the company infrastructure that we've built to help them do those projects. We've also been doing lots of engagement with like-minded groups, including our friends at Campaign for Better Transport, and collaborating directly with campaign groups such as Bring Back Eurotrains, who are campaigning for the restoration of international services at Ebbsfleet and Ashford stations in Kent. At the beginning of 2024, we published a paper that I mainly wrote all about restoring your railway, the government scheme at the time, and just kind of the wider topic of restoring your railways, and particularly analysing what I said was the gap between government rhetoric and the reality of what had been delivered. Off the back of that, I made an argument in favour of the Restoring Your Railway project, not necessarily because it's been a huge material success, but rather because of the narrative and the way that it paired good policy with good politics, tapping into a very potent politics of nostalgia and loss, which was particularly relevant in the context of Brexit and the Red Wall and left behind, so-called left behind towns up and down the country. That's an argument I presented on a panel at the Better Transport Week conference in June, and also in a webinar that I did with the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport, sort of broadly introducing the topic of restoring your railway in November. Over the summer, I also helped coordinate a campaign called Fix the Spine, which was focused all about high-speed rail and was targeted at the new Labour government. Now, we weren't just going to call for all of HS2 to be restored and reinstated because we felt that wasn't realistic. Rather, we were zooming in on 4 particular tweaks to the plan, which we argued would help make the short-term plan better and crucially leave room for long-term growth. And those focus areas were at Euston and at Crewe. Now, I have now had to step away from that campaign for reasons that will soon become obvious. But if you are interested, you can read more about it on our campaign page, including the open letter that we sent in the summer. So what am I up to now? Well, in September, I joined Network Rail on a graduate scheme called Strategy, Planning and Analysis, which is basically my dream job. Based mainly here in Manchester, although with travel to other places as well, including London, Milton Keynes and Birmingham, I get to rotate around various placements, including strategic planning, HS2 integration and timetabling. It feels to me like a very natural continuation of the work I was doing at Northern, which was a bit more sort of day-to-day operations focused. But what that's done is it's given me a really solid grounding of how the railway works, which I feel is really fundamentally important to any work that involves analysing the long-term needs and future of the railway. And I'd love to tell you more about all the work I've been doing and all the things that I've been finding out about, but, well, I can't. See, stepping into that world involves taking on quite a lot of responsibility, and that, of course, puts limit on what I can share here on YouTube, and indeed puts limits on my role co-leading Enroute, although I have been able to continue that just with certain guardrails around rail-related work. I kind of discussed this topic a bit in last year's show, so I won't repeat myself, but TLDW, years ago when I was just a school child travelling to and from school, riding around the network, I had the immense privilege of just being able to talk a lot of shit, while as now I'm stepping inside the box. I get to see all of that up close and be involved in it, but the trade-off there is that I can't then go and share everything that I found out and why I find it super interesting, and also what I would do differently if I was in charge of everything. Especially when it comes to topics that are very contentious, like HS2 or, here in Manchester city centre, the constraints around the rail network here. There are other things that have happened this year, which in previous times I would have probably had a lot to say about, but mainly for self-preservation I've just kept my mouth shut on. I won't say anything more on that, but on a completely unrelated note, I would very strongly recommend my book of the year, which is How the Railways Will Fix the Future by rail engineer, writer and friend of the show, Gareth Dennis. It's a fantastic read, it's a really powerful call to action, and it's full of lessons and a sort of philosophy that will most certainly be guiding me as I develop my own career in the rail industry. So that's my 2024 in a nutshell. Basically, dream job, dream girl, dream flat. It's going pretty well for me. So what will 2025 hold? Well, some things will be somewhat fixed for me. I'll be living here. I don't anticipate moving. I'll be on my graduate scheme unless I get sacked for mouthing off too much. And then, of course, Donald Trump's coming back in a few weeks. I don't have anything to say about that. It's just genuinely a fucking travesty. Anyway, you know what's coming next. It's time to play Place Your Bets. For anybody new, the rules of the game, there are 5 questions, and for each one you've got to guess what the answer will be on the 31st of December 2025. Everybody has £10,000 of imaginary money to spend, and you allocate your money to your answers depending on how confident you are. So each question accrues a pot, which then goes to whoever got it right in a year's time. And this year I am tightening up the rules a little bit with some penalties for not doing your sums correctly and for giving vague or multiple answers. And if you want to see who won last year's, you can go and watch a separate video, which is going to be, I always get this wrong, it's going to be in one of these corners, so I'm just pointing at them both. Click the video to watch that. And now, let's meet our contestants.
Hi, my name's Hadassah. David can put my YouTube channel here, although I only have one video up. I'm kind of toying with the idea of maybe making some movie reviews or something, but I don't know, we'll see.
Hello, I'm Paddy, I'm from York, and this is my Place Your Bets entry for 2024.
Hi folks, it's Coastway Will, pronouns are here, and you find me on the Zoom editor. I because I forgot to record this earlier. Woohoo! You can find me on Blue Sky with coastwaywill.me, as in coastwaywill.me.
Hi, I'm Tom Kell. I work on the railway in strategy. You can find my personal website, tomkel.me, which is also my Blue Sky handle, given that, as subtly predicted last year in my intro, we seem to be moving away from X, but most of my other socials you'll find on my website.
My name is Thomas Haynes. I am a train planner and I have worked on timetables all around the country, from Northern Ireland to Thameslink. In fact, in my spare time, I've even translated some of that knowledge into video games, and you can see examples of that work over on the M4J Gaming YouTube channel.
Hi, my name's Baron, and I'm David's dad.
And I am, of course, David Frankal. Question number 1. What is the latest Conservative Party gaffe?
So question number 1, what is the latest Conservative Party gaffe? After some internet sleuths dig up some old content about Chancellor Rachel Reeves and her chess career, putting in doubt how good she really is, Kemi Badenoch decides to kind of get involved during Prime Minister's questions, and there's a bit of a to and fro in terms of one-upmanship, and Badenoch ends up challenging Rachel Reeves to a game of chess, which Badenoch then convincingly loses, making her look incredibly stupid and not the outcome that she intended.
So, the Tory party have actually been somewhat good this year, I'm going to say. So obviously, they need to rebuild their reputation after a torrid pandemic and subsequent years. As of New Year's Eve 2025, their latest gaffe will have been in March. So yeah, they've gone a good 9 months without a mess up. As for what that mess up will be, I am going to put £2,000 on a backbench politician, a backbench member of the Conservative Party, properly committing to insulting the Muslim community during Ramadan.
I think it will be some sort of outlandish claim by someone in the party about understanding the working class or being working class, or understanding those on benefits, for example, due to going without some minor home comfort or some job that they had when younger. So I think that's going to happen. I think things like that have happened in the past, but I think that is I think there's going to be some sort of quote in that what will be different from what we've had so far. And I'll put that one on for £1,500.
I'm going to put £2,500 on the Conservatives saying something really mean-spirited about migrants who are crossing over into Denver via the channel on small boats. I'm thinking something along the lines of, do you remember when Diane Abbott said, I think it was those migrants who had fucked off to the bottom of the sea or something like that, when a boat had capsized and some people had drowned? Something really disgusting like that.
So, Tory gaps. West Streeter comes out and says gay conversion therapy is good, actually. It's not. 2,000 to that one.
I think it is a very senior Tory, probably Robert Jenrick, doing something along the lines of mixing up Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage. Just as Kemi said something along those lines. Oh, God, I have to say how much as well. Right, hang on. Right, latest Conservative Party gaffe, I will give £1,000.
I think the Conservative Party are going to have a real struggle in the next year, getting squeezed politically from both sides by Labour and Reform. So they're going to increasingly resort to more and more ridiculous tactics to stay relevant. And so my bet is that they are going to do a total rebrand. They're going to change the logo, the colour scheme, the fonts, everything, and it's going to look absolutely ridiculous. They're going to look like comic book villains, and nobody will take it seriously. And I'm betting £2,000 on that. Question number 2. What is Trump's latest policy announcement?
After Bitcoin has fallen to just 10% of its value from a year earlier, in an attempt to revive America's sluggish economy after USA doesn't respond well to Trump's protectionism, Trump instructs the Federal Reserve to buy fewer federal bonds and instead use dollars to buy Bitcoin, telling his supporters that we've got to buy the dip, and that Bitcoin is going to be so high, higher than it has ever been before, and we're all going to be, in yachts in the Caribbean or the Med, because of how high Bitcoin's going to go. You guys are going to reap the rewards.
He's going to revive the idea of building a wall with Mexico and making Mexico pay for it, as if we've not heard it before. And I'm going to bet a pretty solid 3,000 on that one.
He will effectively block the handover of the sovereignty of the Chagos Islands, or the British Indian Ocean territories, to Mauritius by not allowing the deal that they need over the US base there to happen. And I'm going to put £2,000 on that one.
I am going to say, for £1,500, that he wants to build a second wall, this time along the 49th parallel, so that he can keep those pesky Canadians out of the United States of America.
I think he is going to go to Moscow and meet with Putin man to man, face to face, and create a new detente, revolutionary. Trump's latest policy announcement, I'll give £4,000.
I'm going to put £3,500 on Trump pulling out of the Paris Agreement. If only his father had known how to do that, if you know what I mean.
Well, we've all seen the wretch-inducing bromance unfolding between Trump and Elon Musk over the last month. In fact, we're already starting to see some signs that that may be fraying. Well, I'm going to bet that in a year's time, we'll see that relationship completely break down. They'll have completely fallen out with each other. And so in order to spite Elon Musk and also lick the arses of the fossil fuel industry at the same time, we're going to see Donald Trump completely ban the sale of all new electric cars on spurious safety grounds. And I'm going to bet £4,000 on that. Question number 3. Which politician or celebrity has just made a complete arse out of themselves, and how?
Bono saying something very arsey about Trump, which is why it's only 5p.
I'm going to just put a fact on this one, and I am going to say that Keir Starmer has misgendered a cis person.
In fact, I am going to put £4,000 on my answer this year, and that is going to be Gianni Infantino, the president of FIFA. I'm going to say that he makes a slip of a tongue at the opening ceremony or the closing ceremony of the Club World Cup, and instead of congratulating the USA on hosting the tournament, like he should do, I am going to bet that he accidentally congratulates Saudi Arabia.
After saying he would never do so in a million years, Rishi Sunak goes and does it. He resigns as an MP. He can't hack not having the power. And with his family, he moved to San Francisco, where he has taken up a job as the head of public affairs for OpenAI.
I'm going to go with Trump's health secretary, which is believed to be Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but I'm going to keep that open just in case it isn't, or he doesn't last, or whatever happens there. So I'm going to say that Trump's health secretary is going to make some basic error or give very medically poor advice about some ailment or disease that might come up maybe after a disaster or a seasonal disease, for example. And as a public quote, after being questioned about it, either in a press briefing or on a media source, and I'm going to go for £1,500 on that one.
I'm going to put £1,000 on Elon Musk humiliating himself by getting into an argument with NASA.
Well, Keir Starmer clearly has no intention of going back, rejoining the EU, reversing Brexit, but we have seen some signs that he would like to slightly improve at least the relationship with the EU. So over the year there's going to be more and more moves in that direction, not rejoining the customs union or single market, but closer alignment to the EU. And at some point Ursula von der Leyen is going to make an arse out of herself by tweeting something really sort of celebratory about the UK and the EU getting back together, and Keir Starmer's going to make panic about that because he's going to be worried that it's going to piss off the Brexiteers, sound too much like we're rejoining, and release a statement to distance the government from those remarks, and everyone's going to have to backtrack, and it's just going to have to be really embarrassing for everyone involved. And I'm betting £1,000 on that. Question number 4. What is the latest scientific, technological, or medical breakthrough?
I'm going to give, I have to add all this up now, £3,999.95p to, and I think it is something to do with climate change, something along the lines of a giant Hoover that gets launched into space that sucks up all the carbon. And it's probably by someone like Elon Musk.
I am going to bet just a meagre £500 on the latest medical breakthrough being a new form of cancer treatment. No clue what it is, but it's still in the trial phase, and if it succeeds, it would be better than chemotherapy.
I should know the answer to this because I'm doing medicine, but there's just so many things to choose from. I'm going to put £1,000 on some sort of advancement in swallowable camera technology. Did I just say that so that I could say hopefully we'll have an advancement in endoscopic retrograde cholangiopancreatography? Yes, I did, and I'm putting £2,000 on it.
I'm going to say on this one that we managed to get a celebrity onto the Mars, which is completely outlandish, which is why I'm only betting £1,000 on it.
Question number 4. What is the latest scientific, technological, or medical breakthrough? The headline is Scandinavian sand storage. Finland has proved that sand storage is such a great way of keeping your energy, particularly renewable energy, safe over long periods over winter through containing heat energy within it. But the others were countries nearby, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, they all decide that they're going to do it as well, and it becomes mainstream, and the UK starts looking at it as a possible alternative to like underground gas storage and that sort of thing. Yeah, very exciting times because there's lots of sand.
For this one, I'm going to say that commercially viable and or applied quantum computing is going to appear. or at least something that's sold by a company as such. So even if it turns out that it isn't actually quantum computing, they're going to use that as part of their marketing. I'm going for £1,000.
I predict that we are going to see some reports about some gene editing, genetic modification, or nutrient supplement or something that you can give to plants that's going to massively increase their carbon sequestration. And this is going to be touted as the latest solution to climate change. This is going to spark a lot of debate. It's going to be hugely controversial. Some people will say, yes, this is fantastic. This is going to solve climate change. Others will say it's just yet another distraction from actual mitigation and just reducing emissions. I will probably be a bit on the fence because I'm receptive to that argument, but I also think if it's going to mean us planting more plants and trees, especially in urban areas, then it can't be a bad thing. And I'm going to bet £2,000 on that. And finally, question number 5, what is the latest artificial intelligence hoax?
AI hoaxes. Oh, that's a brilliant one, David. So I think on this one, what's going to happen is at the time of recording, there's that whole company that's basically saying, I need all the money in the world to buy out everybody's copyright so I can make AI, better. What's going to happen is that's going to fall through, and then Microsoft are going to ask for the exact same thing, and they're also going to fall through, and I'm going to bet 3,000 on that one because that's all I have left.
I think that is Prince William with a girlfriend, to which I give my remaining, hopefully, £1,000. Happy New Year.
It's Mu Deng. The pygmy hippo, the viral sensation, appears to be ravaging a trespassing child that made its way into her enclosure. Not good.
People will turn up to an Easter event that either doesn't exist or is a wild oversell thanks to sort of AI imagery or something like that, similar to kind of the Wonka experience that we all knew on Glasgow. So some sort of AI Easter hoax, and I'm going to go for £4,000 on that one.
So, the latest AI hoax comes from Elon Musk, quelle surprise. And this year, it will relate to his self-appointment to the role of co-president of the USA. Now, officially, he is heading up a department called Government Efficiency, but he's rich, Trump will listen to everything he says. He is going to promise an AI Congress, so that he can do away with those Democrat Congress people who won't vote for what he wants. And in order to make it a hoax, he is asking Trump supporters to pay for it entirely.
My current favourite AI hoax is members of Parliament playing Minecraft together and turning the House of Lords into a Greggs. But I'm going to put £1,000 on the latest AI hoax being some sort of falsification of a celebrity's death. I think a celebrity or a political figure is going to pass away and there'll be an AI video impersonating them, saying that they're still alive.
I predict that towards the end of 2025, we are going to see the news breaking that Joe Biden has sadly passed away. We're going to get statements from his family, we're going to get lots of grieving, we're going to have the state funeral all televised, and it will turn out a couple of weeks later that it was all completely AI generated. Joe Biden's going to come back from his holiday in the Caribbean and go, what the hell's happened here? I'm not dead. Everyone will have been completely fooled by it. And nobody's going to know what it was for. There's no obvious motive. It's just going to be complete mystery as to why this has been done, why we've all fallen for it. And I am going to bet £1,000 on that. In the call out for question suggestions this year, somebody suggested asking, how will you cope in 2025? And I thought, God, that's a bit depressing. So I'm going to tweak that slightly and just ask as a bonus reflective question. No money on this one. Just for the vibes, tell me, how are you going to thrive in 2025?
As for how I'm going to thrive this year, well, first off, I need to give a massive shout out to the sailors in the Vendée Globe sailing race. Following that race has massively kept me going during this New Year period. And it looks like the winners may finish in late January currently, or may reach a finish line in late January. But beyond that, I am going to continue working in the rail industry because I've loved every minute of it so far, and yeah, it's full of fantastic people.
So how am I going to thrive in 2025? Although a lot of my answers have included social media references, I'm actually going to continue not having any social media apps on my phone as a way to kind of avoid my brain from rotting into something the size of a raisin. I feel a lot better for it, having done it for the last few months, and I think it'll help my attention span as I go into next year.
So in terms of how I'm going to try to thrive in 2025, it is to be a bit more focused on some of the goals that I have. So not necessarily the ones that are set for this year. It's not specific timescales, but just making sure that things I do take a step towards some of those and be more focused on that particularly, instead of just kind of continuing with the usual and muddling through like that.
Well, as I said before, for me personally, things are pretty good at the moment, but there's one new addition to my life that I haven't mentioned yet, which will certainly bring much joy and love to my 2025 and will certainly help me thrive. And so, Internet, I'd quite like to introduce you Internet, meet Teddy the Rabbit. Hello. You can say hi to the camera. You can say hi to the Internet. Oh, you want to smush? Teddy loves being smushed into the carpet. Let's turn around. Come here. Come say hi. Teddy, he's about 4 years old. He had a previous owner, but they moved and couldn't take him into the new flat, I think, something like that. He's used to being an apartment rabbit, free roaming. And he used to live with a Rottweiler, so he's not shy by any means. He's got away. Teddy, come back here. Teddy. Teddy. Oh, he's not playing ball. As soon as I say to anyone he's not shy, that's when he immediately decides, no, I'm going to be shy for the next half an hour. Even though it's normally not. Morning. Good morning. Hello. Hello.